Hello everyone, Shamansin here, and today we're continuing our Debian tutorials with users and groups as well as sudo. So as you noticed, the difference between the server operating system on Debian and let's say Ubuntu is, first of all, like I put the terminals side by side. So this is Ubuntu, okay, and this is Debian. So if I want to run ifconfig, as you know from before, on the other videos, ifconfig will be able to pull up what IP address you have. I can, okay. If I try to run the same command even as a user in Debian, I get command not found. Okay, the difference is that on the desktop operating system and Ubuntu, they've made certain changes to allow the desktop to allow users to be able to run certain commands, certain binary files that normally the root user would only be able to run. So if I were to go into super user in Debian and then run ifconfig, it works. Okay, so the reason for this is it's obviously security. So if someone's account gets compromised, they have very little commands they can run without having access to the root account. So it can be annoying, and you can circumvent certain things, but fortunately there are some mechanisms that we can install onto our server to allow regular users who have authorization to run this command. So first we'll talk about sudo. Now sudo is for super user do, and so you can just install it on your Debian machine. So type in apt-get, you have to do it as the root user as well. Yeah, that's the other thing. So if I want to install something, both Debian and Ubuntu will not allow me. So if I do apt-get install sudo, it tells me I need to be root. And as well as if I even do it on Debian, I have to be root as well. Okay, so by default, any regular user account cannot install. Okay, you don't even have to move it to a special group or tell the operating system that this user does not have that option. It just by default inherently has that security built in. Okay, so if you go super user su and now go apt-get install sudo. Okay, and then install a small application. Okay, and there's even more. So another difference between Ubuntu and Debian, for instance, the reason why you'll see a lot of tutorials online and even me talk about Debian and Ubuntu, because in my opinion, Debian is like Windows Server and Ubuntu is like Windows XP or Windows 7. So the Ubuntu is more desktop oriented, but the thing is that just like Windows and Windows Server, they're built on the same, it's the same operating system in a way, just that Windows Server has more extensions and more things on top of the base operating system. So Ubuntu is Debian with a bunch of extensions and mods and stuff like that to make it look pretty and more user friendly, whereas Debian is like the true operating system. So there are a lot of things, like for instance, you don't have to install sudo in Ubuntu. It's already there. You don't have to install SSH. It's pretty much already there. You don't have to install a lot of the things that we have to install with Debian. That's because the desktop operating systems are pointed towards convenience, versus the server operating systems are meant for performance and security and building your server from the ground up. This is why a Debian operating system will take up maybe about 120 megs of RAM, whereas a Ubuntu system, because of its graphical interfaces and all the actual packages and everything, it's a bigger install, bigger footprint, more RAM needed. So Ubuntu also has its own own server operating system as well, but by learning Debian, you're learning Debian and Ubuntu. Like a Debian user who knows Debian inside and out will know Ubuntu inside and out, and will know Kubuntu and all the other Debian based operating systems out there. So okay, so now that we've installed sudo, let me close this window so I don't get confused. We'll have to modify a file. So for instance, right now I'll demonstrate again. I am not able to ifconfig at all, and I would have no other option right now to do that ifconfig unless I'm root. Okay, but now installing sudo, you can go and modify a file. So cd/etc/ okay, and then we're going to nano sudoers, sudo ers. Okay, and in here there are many different options. We can specify, user based on a user, based on a group. So we're going to talk about groups in a bit here. Okay, so right now the root user has privileges to everything. So let's say I want Sean to have privileges to everything just as a root user. So I can do all, and then all again. Okay, now you'll save the configuration that we just put, type in exit, and now if you type in sudo in front of the command and then type in the password, it's not the root password, it's the user password. Now I can run that command. Also, before, when we tried to update the operating system, okay, we weren't able to. Now with sudo in front, I'm able to go ahead and update the operating system. Now you can modify certain parts. So if you go to man sudo, okay, there is a bunch of options. Okay, you can tell sudo to, soon as it asks for my password once, I have authorization for 15 minutes to continue on. Not as secure, because obviously I want to force someone to put in their password each time. It's annoying, but security can be annoying. But it avoids a user having access, unrestricted access for 15 minutes. But the option's there. You have tons of other options, like I said. And like I said, for all my videos, for each command that you learn, I encourage you, now that you have the operating system installed, or hopefully you have it installed, just type in man and then the command that we learned today, and read the man page. You'll learn so much about what these apps and what these commands can do. These are written by the actual developer themselves. And if you don't want to read them on a terminal window, that's fine. If you go to Google and you type in the sudo space man page, there's tons. You'll have like a web-based article, normally from the Ubuntu or Debian site, or the person who wrote this app, and you can read it. Tons and tons of knowledge you can get from reading these man pages. So now we've learned how to install sudo and what it is. Okay, and if you notice, almost half of the tutorial videos online always use sudo. So now you know sudo is just a mechanism for authentication for specific users, or you can add a specific group. Speaking of groups, let's talk about groups. Now, just like Windows, there are a need, especially in the business environment, to separate users in groups. Now, the reason why is that is a bunch of things. One, to make it tidy. You know, you don't want a huge list of hundreds and hundreds of users, and then you know you get things like Bob Smith. Well, there's a Bob Smith in accounting and a Bob Smith in finance and a Bob Smith, like it's organization. One, two, definitely security. So I wouldn't want someone in accounting to necessarily have access to all my IT documentation. Okay, this is basically security by segmenting out your corporation or your business. This also helps where if one user gets compromised, at least if that user only has access to, let's say, Word documents in marketing, that account is locked to only the marketing part of the company. A breach is a breach, and it's always a big thing, but at least you've limited the impact. Whereas if you have one single user, like the root user, and for some reason the root user you've made have access to every single aspect of the network, that one user gets compromised, someone has access to the entire network, and there's no gate, there's nothing, because that one user is kind of like the God user. So you want to eliminate that whole God user aspect. There should be no one user that has access to everything. Okay, so first thing that we want to do is find out what groups are currently in the operating system, like what groups are here right now. So if I type in groups, okay, you'll see that there's every user has their own group. Okay, so group Sean. Okay, root has its own group. Then see, this is where it gets starting to get chopped up here. So you have groups to be able to use the CD-ROM, groups to use the floppy, groups to use audio, groups for video. Normally though, this normally for certain things like, you know, CD-ROM, floppy, and audio, most users are already in that because you want to use those resources. Now you can take them out if you don't want that. Now to see what groups each user's in, you can do ID Sean, and then as I say, you have access, like I have access to the CD-ROM, the floppy, the audio, the video, all that stuff. And then I added myself into root for testing. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to add a group. Now to do that, you just do add group, say marketing. Okay, sorry, I forgot. Even though we were just talking about it, I forgot to add sudo in front, because an add group is a admin function. So I've just added the group marketing. Okay, now I want to see what I want to add a user into this group. Now if it's a user that doesn't exist in the system, you can do user add -g for group marketing, and then the username. So say Tommy. Okay. So now I've added the user Tommy to marketing. If I do ID Tommy, Tommy now has access to marketing. Okay, now, and also one thing to mention is that there's a unique ID for each group, okay, to help you identify which group's what. So like marketing is 1005. Okay, and then here we go. We added Tommy, and now Tommy has his own group, Tommy. And now if we want to assign a password to Tommy, because we just created the user but no password, you can do sudo passwd passwd Tommy. Okay, and then it'll ask for a password to assign him. And now Tommy has a password assigned to him. Okay. So now that's adding a group. Now, if we go back to the sudo users, now that we've added a group, let's say we wanted the marketing group to have access. We can just literally put %marketing and then just like above here, all. Now, we don't want that, obviously. Someone in marketing should not have access, but you get my drift here. We can definitely see how this can shape up. So you can also do something like, we'll add one more group. Oh, I logged myself out of the server. So you can do sudo group add IT. Now we have a group for IT. You can do user add IT admin IT, and then this is, remember, user add dash capital G for group. Okay, let's see here. Oh, here we go. I reversed the command, so it's IT admin. So it's the group first, then the username. Okay, so now if I do ID IT admin, there we go. They're in the IT group. Okay, so now that's adding users to groups. Now, how about that's adding a new user to a new group? How about adding an existing user to a group? Well, you'll do sudo user mod tac A tac G IT. If I wanted to add Sean, then IT. Say I wanted to add Sean to the IT group. Okay, give me a moment here. Okay. Sorry, I had the command wrong. So to add the group, to add an existing user to a group, it's sudo usermod tac a tac capital G, the group, and then the user that you want to add. So sudo usermod tac a tac capital G it Sean in this case. Okay. This is why I don't edit any of my videos, so you can see my mistakes and learn from them as well. So now that we've added new groups and then added new users to new groups, old users to new groups, let's add just a regular user. So if you want to add a regular user, you can do sudo user add, okay, and then say Bill. Okay, so now that just adds a user, and if you want to assign a password, so sudo pass wd Bill, and then you can add a user, the password for the user. Now if you want to add a user and be asked at the same time for the password, you can do sudo add user bill2, and then by adding this, it'll ask where you want what you want the password to be, and then it'll ask things like the user's first name, so Bill, room number 123, work phone number 647-555-5555, and then it's kind of like it adds it to the directory, and then if you hit yes, it adds it. So now when you type in users, you'll see so now when you, not users, but if you type in users bill2, you'll see that bill2 exists now, and it has its own group, as I said before, and also same deal for Bill. Okay, so now each group can be assigned what security you want to be. So now let's say you have a folder, so let's make one. So make dir my folder. Okay, if you do ls/la, okay, you'll see that my folder belongs not only to me, okay, it belongs to the group Sean. So let's say I wanted to change that, so I can change chown, so for change ownership, okay, and then I can declare Sean and then say it my folder. So what I've just done is I've changed the group that has access to this to IT. So you do ls/la IT. So now all the users in IT can view this folder, and you can add more and more and more, but this is just the basic concept. Okay, and later on when we talk about Samba and file sharing and stuff like that, you'll see why this is important functionality, to have certain groups have access to certain things. Okay, so I hope that this helps you grasp the concept of users and groups and what sudo is. I plan to have our next video talking about more stuff about Debian and continuing journey on learning this operating system inside and out. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. You can also visit my website, SeanMancini.com, and you can also email me any questions. It's SeanMancini2010@gmail.com. Speak with you guys soon.